My half-sister was kidnapped. My husband rushed off alone to rescue her, only to be stabbed twice and swept into the ocean. His fate was unknown. I smiled. Rather than wasting police resources searching for him, I went straight to the authorities to have him legally declared dead. Not long after he disappeared, I was holding his official death certificate in my hands. That very night, the probate paperwork was finalized, making me the sole beneficiary of his estate. As I stared at the $42 million inheritance, I almost burst into laughter. Could life really hand me such incredible luck? That afternoon, shortly after Ethan Walker drove to the coast, I received a call from the Seattle Police Department. "Miss Carter? This is Detective Harris with the Seattle Police Department. Your husband, Ethan Walker, was involved in a violent altercation near the waterfront this morning. According to evidence collected at the scene, he was stabbed multiple times before falling into the ocean. Search and rescue teams are doing everything they can, but with the severe weather and dangerous currents, the chances of survival are extremely low." I gasped dramatically. "What about my sister?" There was a brief silence. "Your half-sister, Sophia Carter, was the kidnapping victim. Your husband went there to rescue her." Another pause followed before the detective continued. "It appears Mr. Walker got into a confrontation while negotiating with the kidnappers. Miss Carter, we're sending officers to pick you up. We'd like you to come to the station and provide a statement. We promise we'll do everything possible to find your sister." I thanked the detective over and over, my voice trembling with gratitude. As for my husband, please don't waste valuable resources looking for him. Use every available officer to find my sister instead. The detective sounded genuinely moved. He praised me for being such a compassionate and selfless sister before ending the call. Shortly afterward, a large portion of the search team assigned to the shoreline was redirected to the kidnapping investigation. The moment I hung up, I finally let the smile I'd been suppressing spread across my face. Ethan Walker, while secretly transferring our marital assets in preparation for divorcing me, he'd unexpectedly disappeared forever. I couldn't have been happier. I immediately called my legal team before heading to the county office to begin the legal process of declaring him deceased and obtaining his death certificate. Since I, his lawful wife, had officially requested that the search be discontinued, the paperwork moved quickly. Within days, I had his death certificate. That same night, the entire estate officially passed into my name. Before disappearing, Ethan had been far too busy hiding assets to prepare a will. His parents had already passed away. The only family he had left was his useless younger brother, Ryan Walker, and his pregnant mistress, the very woman he'd been cheating on me with. That left only one legal heir: me. Overnight, I inherited an estate worth more than $42 million. Money, beauty, freedom, and a dead husband. How could anyone possibly understand how wonderful that felt? Smiling, I picked up Ethan's old photo album and gently brushed my fingers across the cover. "Ethan, you really were such a generous man. I'll take care of your mistress for you. I'll deal with your worthless little brother. And that unborn child you've left behind? I'll make sure it never gets to enjoy a single penny of your fortune. So don't worry. Rest in peace." The moment I finished speaking, I stuffed every last belonging Ethan had ever owned into cardboard boxes and hired movers to haul everything away to the dump. I had barely finished when my phone rang again. The caller ID read, "Ryan Walker, Ethan's younger brother." I raised an eyebrow and answered. "Hello, Olivia," Ryan barked. "Where the hell is my brother?" I smiled. "If you're looking for your brother, why don't you call him yourself?" "Why are you calling me?" "Because I can't reach him, damn it." Ryan snapped. "What the hell are you pulling this time?" I chuckled. "You know what? If Ethan were still alive, I'd tell him to dump a loser like you." Ryan went silent. I couldn't help laughing. "You really should have stayed in school. Nobody says, dump your wife like you're living in some medieval kingdom. As for finding your brother," I said casually, "you'll probably have better luck calling hell." "Hell? What the hell is that supposed to mean?" I hung up without another word. There was no point wasting another second talking to someone with Ryan's IQ. Ryan Walker had dropped out of high school before graduating. He spent his days hanging around with small-time criminals, picking fights, and pretending he was some kind of gangster. Even after Ethan became rich and paid for Ryan to attend an expensive adult education program, he never managed to learn a thing. I wasn't remotely worried that someone like him could cause me any real trouble. Sophia, on the other hand, her kidnapping had genuinely caught me by surprise. So, I had to thank her. Without that little accident, how could I have inherited $42 million so effortlessly? For the next few days, I stayed home pretending to be a devastated widow. Only after everyone had seen enough of my grief did I begin handling Ethan's affairs. The first thing I did was cancel Ryan's authorized credit card. Why should I keep supporting my dead husband's freeloading little brother? Then I called a real estate agent and instructed them to list the house Ryan had been living in. As expected, my phone rang only minutes later. "Olivia!" Ryan shouted. Why the hell did my credit card stop working? I lazily cleaned my ear with a finger. I'm not responsible for feeding you. Of course I canceled it. The card belonged to your brother. What the dash? His confidence visibly faltered. Oh, nobody told you? I let the silence linger before smiling. That's pretty sad. Some little brother you are. Ethan's dead. I deliberately dragged out the last two words. Ryan exploded. Olivia, have you lost your damn mind? How dare you say my brother's dead? I laughed. You really should read the news once in a while. Ethan's disappearance has been all over every major network. Then Ryan yelled again. And what about the house? Who the hell gave you the right to kick me out? I couldn't help letting out a cold laugh. Ryan, open your eyes. The deed is in my name. If I want to sell my own house, that's my business. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. I ended the call and immediately blocked Ryan's number along with every other way he could possibly contact me. The house had always been in my name. Years ago, when Ethan founded Walker Capital Group, the company nearly collapsed because it ran out of cash. I was the one who emptied my savings, stood beside him through every setback, and helped rebuild the business from the ground up. After the company became successful, Ethan transferred 25% of the company's shares to me and bought 2 homes under my name. And what happened? One house became Ryan's free place to live. The other became a love nest for his mistress. That mistress just happened to be my beloved half-sister, Sophia Carter. A woman's intuition is terrifyingly accurate. The moment Ethan started coming home later and later every night, I knew something was wrong. So I hired a licensed private investigator. It didn't take long to discover the truth. Ethan and Sophia had been carrying on an affair behind my back for months. Stealing from me had always been Sophia's favorite hobby. As children, she stole my father's attention. Then she stole my toys. Later, she stole my boyfriend. Finally, she stole my husband. She never seemed to get tired of taking whatever belonged to me. As for me, I never cared enough to fight over things that could be stolen so easily. If someone could take it from me, then it was never worth keeping in the first place. That included Ethan. The moment I discovered he had begun secretly transferring our marital assets, I quietly started collecting evidence of his affair and financial misconduct. I was fully prepared to destroy him in divorce court. I simply never got the chance. Because before I could make my move, Sophia was kidnapped. Early the next morning my phone rang. It was the Seattle Police Department. At first, I assumed they had found a new lead on Sophia's whereabouts. Instead, the detective said, "Miss Carter, someone has filed a complaint accusing you of illegally taking possession of another person's property." I almost laughed out loud. When I arrived at the police station, Ryan was already sitting on a bench in the lobby. The second he saw me, he jumped to his feet and pointed at me. "Officer, that's her. She stole my brother's estate." The detective rubbed his temples in frustration before leading both of us into an interview room. The moment we sat down, Ryan started all over again like a broken record. "Officer, it's her. She stole everything that belonged to my brother." The detective finally turned toward me. "Miss Carter, is there any truth to what he's saying?" I lowered my head, forcing tears into my eyes. "Detective, my husband has barely been declared dead. And now people are already trying to steal what's legally mine." The detective immediately slammed his hand on the table. "Mr. Walker, that's enough." He then motioned for me to continue. Without saying another word, I calmly opened my handbag and laid several documents on the table. Ethan's official death certificate, the probate order naming me as the sole heir, and the property deeds showing legal ownership of the house. I looked at the detective. The house Mr. Walker is living in belongs to me. I inherited my husband's estate through the legal probate process. If I choose to sell my own property, that's entirely my legal right. Ryan clenched his fists. She's lying. But after seeing the warning look from the detective, he swallowed the rest of his insults. The detective carefully examined every document I had presented. After a thorough review, he nodded before turning to Ryan. Everything Ms. Carter has provided is legally valid. Do you have any evidence proving that she unlawfully took possession of your brother's estate? Ryan let out a dismissive snort and looked away. My brother told me himself, he muttered. He was planning to divorce Olivia and leave her with nothing. Now she's taken everything he owned. If that's not stealing, what is? The detective looked at me helplessly. I smiled and met Ryan's eyes. Do you have a recording of Ethan saying that? No. A signed document? No. Any text messages? Emails? A handwritten note? Anything at all proving those were Ethan's wishes? Ryan stayed silent. I folded my arms. If you don't have a single piece of evidence, then what you've just accused me of is defamation. I could sue you for that. Ryan's face twisted with rage. He lunged toward me, but the detective grabbed him before he could take another step. I calmly gathered my documents, slipped them back into my handbag and stood. Thank you for your time, detective. I sincerely hope you find my half-sister Sophia Carter as soon as possible. The moment I mentioned Sophia's name, I noticed Ryan stiffen. For a split second he avoided my eyes. I smiled to myself. Ryan wasn't smart enough to come up with legal terms like unlawful possession of property on his own. He probably didn't even know what the phrase meant. Someone had coached him. Someone had told him exactly what to say. And I had a pretty good idea who that someone was. As soon as I left the station, I called my real estate agent. Go ahead and list Sophia's house too. If she'd already sneaked back home without even bothering to notify the police that she'd escaped her so-called kidnappers, then she deserved whatever consequences followed. The real estate agency worked fast. I'd barely made it back to my lakefront home when my phone rang. Miss Carter, the agent said awkwardly, we've arrived at the property, but there's a problem. What kind of problem? There's a pregnant woman refusing to leave. She's crying, screaming, and lying across the front entrance. She keeps saying the house belongs to her husband and demands money before she'll move. We don't dare touch her. If she claims we hurt her or the baby, we'll be in serious trouble. I couldn't help laughing. Her husband. The only place she's going to find him now is 6 feet underground. Don't worry. I'll email you a signed authorization letter. If she continues trespassing or causing a disturbance, call the Seattle Police Department immediately. A short while later my phone rang again. This time, it was Sophia. Hi sis. Her voice sounded as sweet as honey. What are you up to? I almost laughed. She still had no idea that I'd known about her affair with Ethan for months. She was still pretending to be the innocent little sister. Quietly, I tapped the record call button before answering. So, I said lightly, you were kidnapped yet somehow you're already walking around free. Care to explain that, Sophia? What exactly are you trying to say, Olivia? She snapped. I'm your sister. I was kidnapped and you don't even sound worried. Worried? I laughed softly. I was worried enough to let my husband carry a bag full of ransom money to save you. And now he's the one who's dead. There was a brief pause. He's really dead? Her voice was calm. Too calm. That one question told me everything I needed to know. Apparently, Sophia wasn't nearly as heartbroken over Ethan as she'd pretended to be. If she and Ethan had honestly fallen in love and openly admitted it, I might have respected them a little. But they hadn't. Instead, they'd chosen betrayal. And even now, they were still trying to figure out how to ruin me. I smiled. That's all you have to say? Your lover dies and that's your reaction. Her voice immediately became sharper. What the hell are you talking about? Oh, stop pretending. We're way past the point of acting innocent. Sophia Carter. How old are you? Your entire life has revolved around stealing things that belong to me. My father's attention. My toys. My boyfriend. My husband. You're like a spoiled little child who never learned the meaning of enough. And somehow you actually got pregnant. Aren't you worried karma might catch up with you? Olivia, she screamed. You're completely insane. A smile spread across my face. So you finally admit it. Yes. You stole my husband. So what? Her voice dripped with arrogance. Your own father never wanted you. The man you love chose me instead. Ethan couldn't get enough of me. And now I'm carrying his son. If you're smart, you'll hand over half of his inheritance. Perfect. That was exactly what I wanted. Satisfied, I ended the recording before replying one last time. Thank you, Sophia. Without you, I never would have walked away with $42 million. If we'd divorced, I'd have received nowhere near this much. But now, it all belongs to me. I smiled. As for men, they're replaceable. If I had been the kind of woman who based her life around a cheating husband, I never would have made it this far. I ended the call. For the next several days, both Sophia and Ryan disappeared. They were probably hiding somewhere, plotting their next move against me. That suited me perfectly. It gave me plenty of time to take care of something much more important. I drove to Walker Capital Group. Years ago, Ethan and I had built the company together from nothing. Many of the executives who still worked there had been hired and promoted by me personally. I had never enjoyed running day-to-day operations, so after the business stabilized, I stepped back and lived comfortably on my dividends. Now Ethan was gone. And with his death, his 40% ownership stake legally became mine. The moment I stepped into the lobby of Walker Capital Group, a familiar voice echoed through the building. I'm telling you right now, get on your knees and apologize. Do you have any idea who I am? Of course I recognized that voice. Ryan Walker. Ethan had always spoiled his younger brother rotten. Even though Ryan was completely incompetent, Ethan had forced the company to give him a management position. I'd argued against it more than once. Every single time, Ethan would shut me down with the same excuse. He's my only brother. If I don't take care of him, who will? Typical. Another man who confused nepotism with loyalty. I glanced toward the young woman standing in front of Ryan. She looked no older than 22. Tears streamed down her face as she repeatedly bowed her head. I'm so sorry, Mr. Walker. Today's my first day. I didn't mean to dash. I don't give a damn. Ryan roared. Get on your knees. Before I could say a word, Michael Brooks, the company's chief operating officer, hurried over after hearing the commotion. The moment he spotted me, he walked straight toward me. Miss Carter, what would you like us to do? I smiled. Escort Ryan out of the building. Michael froze for a moment. Then relief spread across his face. He had been one of the first executives I recruited when Ethan and I founded the company. I trusted him completely. Without hesitation, he signaled for corporate security. Ryan, meanwhile, assumed the guards had come to drag the young employee away. He puffed out his chest proudly. See that? I told you. This is what happens when you disrespect me. You're fired. Yeah, that's right. She's fired because she pissed me off. The security officers ignored every word. Instead, each grabbed one of Ryan's arms and began escorting him toward the exit. Ryan's eyes widened in disbelief. Hey, what the hell are you doing? You've got the wrong person. Let go of me. Only then did he notice me standing several yards away. His face instantly twisted with rage. Olivia, was this your idea? Did you tell them to throw me out? I looked at him without the slightest hint of emotion. Haven't you been watching the news? Your brother was stabbed multiple times before he disappeared into the ocean. His chance of surviving is practically zero. If you have time to scream at me, you should spend it asking Sophia exactly how she escaped her kidnapping without a single scratch. I didn't waste another second on Ryan. Instead, I walked into Michael's office with him. The moment the door closed, he lowered his voice. Miss Carter. He hesitated. Is Ethan really gone? I nodded. He is. Then my expression hardened. I want you to begin quietly identifying every employee Ethan hired through favoritism. When the time is right, terminate them. After that, schedule an emergency shareholders meeting. From this point forward, I'll be taking over as CEO. And Ryan wasn't the only problem Ethan brought into this company. Over the past several years, Ethan had filled Walker Capital Group with relatives, old friends, and people who had no business working there. The moment someone discovered he was successful, they'd suddenly become family. Ethan hired every one of them. The company was slowly turning into his family's private employment agency. Meanwhile, the people who had helped build the business from nothing, the employees who had sacrificed everything during those difficult early years, were pushed aside, overlooked, or forced out. I shook my head. There was no point dwelling on the past. After discussing the restructuring plan with Michael, I left the office and drove home. A few days later, I received a call from the King County Superior Court. Sophia Carter and Ryan Walker had officially filed a lawsuit against me. Perfect. This was exactly what I'd been waiting for. I immediately contacted Daniel Hayes, one of my closest friends from law school. We declined every offer of mediation and requested that the case proceed directly to trial. Before long, the hearing date arrived. When I entered the courtroom, I immediately spotted Sophia. She was heavily pregnant, sitting confidently beside Ryan at the plaintiff's table. I raised an eyebrow before calmly taking my seat beside Daniel at the defense table. The judge hadn't even begun the proceedings before Ryan jumped to his feet. "You hear me, Olivia?" he shouted across the courtroom. "You're screwed. I'm gonna make damn sure you cough up every penny you stole from my brother." The judge slammed the gavel. "Mr. Walker, one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt." After several warnings, Ryan finally dropped back into his chair, muttering under his breath. The courtroom settled. The plaintiff's attorney stood and began presenting their case. "Your Honor, we ask the court to order the defendant to surrender 50% of the $42 million estate inherited from Ethan Walker." He continued confidently. "Our client is acting on behalf of the unborn biological child of the deceased. Under Washington state inheritance law, a biological child born outside of marriage has the same inheritance rights as a child born within a marriage. The law prohibits discrimination based on the parent's marital status." I nodded slightly. The attorney clearly knew the law. At least, he had memorized the statutes well. But what difference did that make? Knowing the law and winning a case were two very different things. I gave Daniel a subtle nod. He rose to his feet and calmly addressed the court. "Your Honor, may I ask the plaintiff a question?" The judge nodded. "Proceed." Daniel turned toward Sophia. "Ms. Carter, what evidence do you have that the child you're carrying is biologically related to my client's late husband, Ethan Walker?" Sophia had clearly anticipated the question. Her attorney immediately handed a report to the court. "Your Honor, our client underwent prenatal DNA testing through amniocentesis. The fetal DNA was compared with a sample provided by Mr. Ryan Walker, the decedent's biological brother. The laboratory concluded that the unborn child shares a close biological relationship with Mr. Walker's immediate family, with a probability exceeding 99.99%. I raised an eyebrow. So she'd undergone amniocentesis. That meant the pregnancy was already well past 16 weeks. Daniel smiled politely. "Thank you." He paused before asking his next question. "Counsel, doesn't this report merely establish that the unborn child is biologically related to Mr. Ryan Walker? Can you present any evidence proving that the child's biological father is specifically Mr. Ethan Walker?" The courtroom fell silent. Sophia glared at me with undisguised hatred. Her fists tightened. After several tense seconds, she reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out her cell phone. "My evidence is in here." The phone contained countless photos and videos of Ethan and Sophia together. I exchanged a glance with Daniel. He immediately understood. "Your Honor, the defense requests a forensic copy of the contents of that device for evidentiary review." "Granted." The judge nodded. The court clerk connected the phone to the courtroom computer and began copying every photo and video. As the files flashed across the monitor, I scanned them one by one. My jaw tightened. Those two had brought each other into my lakefront home. Again and again. Some of the videos had even been recorded inside my master bedroom, on my bed. For a moment I felt physically sick. I could almost picture Sophia walking around my house wearing my silk pajamas before climbing into bed beside my husband. No wonder the place had started feeling so filthy. The instant this trial was over, I decided I was putting that house on the market. I'd buy somewhere bigger, newer, somewhere untouched by either of them. Taking a slow breath, I forced every trace of emotion from my face. There was no way I was giving Sophia the satisfaction of seeing me crack. Once the forensic copy was complete, Daniel stood again. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "these photographs and videos establish only one fact. They demonstrate that the plaintiff and Mr. Ethan Walker were engaged in an extramarital relationship. They do not establish that the unborn child is biologically Ethan Walker's. They are evidence of an affair, not evidence of paternity." Ryan slammed both hands onto the counsel table. "That's complete bullshit." The judge immediately brought down the gavel. "Mr. Walker, control yourself or I'll hold you in contempt." Ryan reluctantly sat back down, but he couldn't keep his mouth shut. "The DNA matches me with over 99.99% certainty. How the hell doesn't that prove the baby is my brother's?" I smiled faintly. "Does it?" I looked directly at Ryan. "Then where is the evidence proving that you are Ethan Walker's biological brother?" The courtroom fell silent. Ryan blinked. For the first time since the trial began, he looked genuinely confused. I continued calmly. "The DNA report only establishes that the unborn child shares a biological relationship with you. It does not identify Ethan Walker as the biological father. Avuncular DNA testing is an indirect kinship analysis. It is not a direct paternity test." I turned toward Daniel. Without another word, he removed a large sealed envelope from his briefcase. "Your Honor," he said, "the defense would like to submit 2 additional exhibits. The first is a certified medical report from the University of Washington Medical Center. It confirms that Mr. Ethan Walker suffered from permanent infertility and was medically incapable of fathering children." A murmur spread across the courtroom. Sophia's face instantly drained of color. Daniel wasn't finished. "The second exhibit consists of photographs that were anonymously delivered to my client before Mr. Walker's disappearance." He placed several photographs before the court. One after another, images appeared on the courtroom monitors. Wrapped in the arms of different men, different dates, different locations, different partners. Then came the final photograph. Ryan, standing far too close to Sophia. His arm wrapped around her waist. The courtroom erupted. Before anyone could react, Ryan spun toward Sophia and struck her across the face. The slap echoed through the courtroom. "You cheating bitch. You were sleeping with other men behind my back?" Sophia screamed. Ryan grabbed a fistful of her hair and tried to slam her head against the counsel table. Court security rushed forward immediately. "Bailiffs! Separate them!" Several deputies wrestled Ryan to the floor before dragging him out of the courtroom, while he continued shouting obscenities. The hearing descended into complete chaos. After restoring order, the judge recessed the proceedings. I quietly watched the two of them screaming accusations at each other. If Ethan could somehow see this, the woman he betrayed his wife for had been sleeping with countless other men, including his own beloved younger brother. The irony was almost poetic. The man who cheated on his wife had ultimately become the biggest victim of betrayal himself, and the child he had believed would carry on the Walker family name wasn't even his. The medical report proving Ethan's infertility was genuine. Years earlier, we'd gone in for routine physical examinations together. When the results were ready, I had been the one who picked them up alone. I learned that day that Ethan would never be able to have biological children. I never told him. I wanted to protect his pride. I carried that secret alone, enduring years of whispers and judgment from people who assumed I was the reason we never had children. The truth was, having children had never been a requirement for my happiness. Years ago, Ethan used to hold me close and whisper that he didn't care whether we ever became parents. "As long as I have you," he'd say, "I don't need anything else." What a joke. It turned out he hadn't been indifferent about having children at all. He simply hadn't wanted me to be the mother of them. The saddest part? Until the day he disappeared, that idiot genuinely believed I was the infertile one. The moment Sophia announced she was pregnant, he panicked. That's when he began secretly moving our marital assets and preparing to leave me with nothing. But Ethan forgot one very important fact. So did Sophia. And so did Ryan. Before Ethan and I ever founded Walker Capital Group, I had already built a successful career as an attorney. Spotting legal fraud, hidden assets, and financial deception was second nature to me. Corporate law wasn't even my primary specialty. I practiced civil litigation. But the instant I sensed Ethan behaving suspiciously, I consulted several former classmates who specialized in family law and financial fraud. By the time today's hearing arrived, every experienced attorney in Seattle already knew exactly what kind of case this was. In fact, before Sophia and Ryan even began looking for legal representation, I had quietly circulated Ethan's certified infertility diagnosis through several private professional legal networks. Once veteran attorneys reviewed the evidence, they all reached the same conclusion. The plaintiffs had no realistic chance of winning. No respected lawyer was willing to sacrifice years of professional reputation on a case that was doomed from the beginning. As for the photographs showing Sophia with other men, those came from the private investigator I had hired months earlier. Of course, in court, I simply testified that an anonymous source had mailed them to me. Photographs secretly taken by a private investigator often raise evidentiary issues regarding admissibility. There was no reason to complicate the case by revealing where they truly came from. The funny part was that Ethan had spent years belittling me in front of Sophia and Ryan. He constantly mocked my legal career and dismissed my abilities. Eventually, the two of them actually believed I wasn't someone worth worrying about. Otherwise, I couldn't imagine how anyone could be foolish enough to try deceiving an attorney in her own courtroom. I glanced across the courtroom one last time. Sophia and Ryan were still screaming accusations at each other, while their lawyers struggled to calm them down. I couldn't help smiling. Then I stood, picked up my briefcase, and walked toward the exit beside Daniel. "Thanks again," I said, patting him on the shoulder. "I'll leave the remaining hearings to you. I don't plan on coming back for the rest of this circus." Daniel shot me an annoyed look and brushed my hand off his shoulder. "You disappear for years without so much as a phone call," he grumbled. "Then the first time you show up, you dump a mountain of work on my desk." I couldn't help laughing. "Seriously, Olivia. When are you finally coming back to practice? The legal world could use you again." I laughed even harder. "Come back to work? Why would I? I was officially rich now. $42 million richer. The last thing I wanted was to spend my days buried under legal briefs and court filings. If you need anything," I said with a grin, "don't call me. I'm about to spend the next several months traveling around the world." I waved goodbye, left the courthouse, and drove straight home. Fortunately, I'd already thrown away every single one of Ethan's belongings, so there wasn't much left to pack. I tossed out most of my own wardrobe as well before calling my favorite luxury boutiques. One of the sales associates asked, "Miss Carter, would you like us to send the same elegant, classic styles you've always preferred?" I smiled. "No. This time I want something completely different. Bold, confident, and a little more daring." By the time the new clothes arrived, I packed everything into the trunk of my car. Then I handed the keys to my lakefront house over to my real estate agent. I wasn't coming back. That house held too many memories of Ethan. Once upon a time I had truly loved him. Then one day, I happened to glance at his phone. Sophia's flirtatious text messages lit up the screen. In that instant I knew my marriage was over. At first I had planned to end everything peacefully. A civilized divorce. A fair division of our assets. Each of us moving on with our lives. But Ethan had other plans. He secretly transferred our marital assets. Then he began plotting to destroy me completely. If that was the game he wanted to play, he couldn't blame me for sending him straight into hell instead. Over the next several months, I took my mother on a long vacation through Europe. For the first time in years, we simply enjoyed life. While we were abroad, the lawsuit finally reached its conclusion. Sophia and Ryan lost. Completely. Daniel called me afterward with the details. Apparently Ryan had actually tried filing another lawsuit. His argument? "I'm Ethan Walker's only brother. Why shouldn't I inherit part of his estate?" Daniel laughed as he told me what happened next. I spent nearly an hour explaining basic inheritance law to him. I don't think he understood half of it. But eventually he stopped arguing. I smiled and put the whole ridiculous affair behind me. Or so I thought. A few days after returning home, I drove my mother back to our old neighborhood. As we pulled into the driveway, I saw someone waiting outside. Sophia. She was holding a newborn baby in her arms. She had given birth. My mother looked at me nervously. Olivia. It's okay, Mom. You go inside. I'll handle this. I took her suitcase from the trunk, handed it to her, and quietly slipped my phone into recording mode. Then I walked toward Sophia. The moment Sophia saw me, she rushed over as if I were her last lifeline. She grabbed my sleeve and refused to let go. I frowned and brushed her hand away. Sorry. I have a bit of a cleanliness issue. And I'm especially allergic to trash touching me. To my surprise, Sophia no longer looked like the arrogant, vicious woman I'd known. Her eyes filled with tears as she pleaded. Olivia. Please. No matter what happened between us, this baby is Ethan's only child. You're his widow. Can't you spare a little money to help raise his son? I rolled my eyes. Sophia. Weren't we crystal clear about this in court? Ethan was medically infertile. The only man who could possibly be this child's biological father is Ryan. Do you understand that now? Sophia's expression twisted with rage. I don't care. Ryan is Ethan's biological brother. That still makes this baby part of the Walker family. He's Ethan's nephew. As his widow, the least you could do is help support him. I almost laughed. The woman who stole another woman's husband was standing in front of me demanding money as if she were the victim. Then again, I shouldn't have been surprised. Years ago, her mother had marched into my home with exactly the same shameless confidence, demanding that my father leave my mother for her. Like mother. Like daughter. Neither of them possessed a shred of dignity. I folded my arms. Tell me something, Sophia. While you were Ethan's mistress, how much of our marital money did he spend on you? Did it ever occur to you that every dollar he gave you legally belonged to both of us? If I wanted to, I could sue you to recover every single cent. I paused. There's something else I've been wondering. The police searched everywhere for you after your kidnapping. They couldn't find a single trace. So how exactly did you manage to stroll back home completely unharmed? You were heavily pregnant. And yet somehow, you escaped without so much as a scratch. Sophia had already stopped listening. She stared at me with bloodshot eyes. I don't give a damn about any of that. I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to give me the money? Or not? I looked at her with nothing but contempt. I don't owe you anything. If anyone owes me money, it's your father. He spent years dodging the child support he legally owed my mother and me. So tell me, when does he plan on paying that back? Sophia suddenly let go of my sleeve. A slow, twisted smile spread across her face. Olivia, she said quietly, I gave you one last chance to do the right thing. You refused. So just wait. I'm going to make your life a living hell. And when I'm done, you'll be the one crawling to me. You'll beg for mercy. With that, she turned and walked away. I watched her disappear down the street before pulling my phone from my pocket. A faint smile crossed my lips. Spending so much time around Ryan must have lowered her IQ. Whatever little scheme she was planning, I wasn't the least bit worried. Bring it on. For several days nothing happened. That, more than anything, surprised me. Sophia had never been patient. She loved attention. She loved showing off. If she'd really come up with some brilliant plan to destroy me, she would have rushed over immediately just to watch my reaction. The silence felt unnatural. Then, a few days later, Daniel texted me a link. Thought you'd want to see this. Curious, I tapped it. It opened directly to one of Sophia's live streams. She was sitting in front of the camera with her newborn baby in her arms, crying so hard that tears and mascara streaked down her face. Between sobs, she told thousands of viewers that every tragedy she'd suffered had been orchestrated by her own evil sister. According to her story, I had arranged her kidnapping. I had murdered Ethan. I had done it all so I could inherit his fortune. Then she held up the court's judgment to the camera. They're all corrupt, she cried. Olivia paid off the judge. She bribed everyone. That's how she stole my husband's $42 million. I glanced at the livestream statistics. Only a few hundred people were watching. Honestly, the story she'd invented wasn't bad. It was emotional, simple, easy for strangers on the internet to believe. The problem was, she thought a brand new account with almost no followers could somehow go viral on its own. I smiled. Then I quietly solved that problem for her. I spent a considerable amount of money promoting her livestream across multiple platforms, buying traffic, engagement, and algorithmic exposure. If she wanted attention, I'd give her all the attention she could handle. Within minutes, the viewer count exploded. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. The stream shot onto the trending page. Sophia watched the numbers climb in real time. Her performance became even more dramatic. She cried harder. Her voice trembled with theatrical emotion. Everyone. My own sister hired people to kidnap me. She murdered my husband. Then she stole the $42 million he spent his entire life earning. I took her to court, Sophia sobbed into the camera, and I still lost. So tell me, can rich people really buy anything? Can they buy judges? Can they buy justice? My sister stole the fortune my husband spent his entire life building. Then she took that money and flew overseas to enjoy a luxurious vacation. I begged her to help support this innocent baby. And she shoved us out the door. How can someone be so heartless? So cruel? So inhuman? Olivia Carter. You're a monster. The live stream exploded. The comments poured in faster than anyone could read them. What the hell? Is this real? Did her own sister really stage a kidnapping just to steal $42 million? Someone tell me this is fake. Any lawyers in the chat? Is something like this even legally possible? Money talks. Rich people always get away with everything. Hold on, parts of this story don't add up. I'm staying neutral until more evidence comes out. People fake stories for views every day. Let's wait and see. I sat quietly in front of my computer, watching Sophia perform the role of a grieving widow with astonishing dedication. She had the nerve to call Ethan my husband every other sentence. It was almost impressive. If she wanted to start a wildfire, I had no problem pouring gasoline on it. I quietly exited the live stream. A message from Daniel was waiting for me. Daniel. Olivia. How do you want to handle this? I stared at the screen for a few seconds before smiling. Then I wired him a substantial amount of money. Me. Push it harder. I want this story everywhere. Every major platform. Every trending page. Buying viewers for her live stream had only been the beginning. If I was giving Sophia a gift, I might as well make it unforgettable. I wanted her story dominating every headline in America. More importantly, I wanted the person hiding behind the curtain, the one manipulating Sophia from the shadows, to see exactly what happened to anyone foolish enough to come after me. Money, when used correctly, could accomplish far more than most people ever imagined. That same night, clips from Sophia's live stream exploded across social media. She climbed to the top of the trending charts on TikTok, X, Instagram Reels, and YouTube. Within hours, my phone began ringing non-stop. Old friends, business partners, former colleagues. Everyone wanted to know whether the accusations were true. Then Michael Brooks called. His voice sounded genuinely panicked. Olivia, we've got a serious problem. Walker Capital's stock is dropping because of Sophia's accusations. Investors are getting nervous. The media keeps calling for comments. Should we issue a press release immediately? No. I leaned back in my chair and calmly watched the headlines flooding across my screen. The truth was, I'd paid to put Sophia's livestream on the trending page myself. Michael clearly couldn't follow the logic behind what I was doing. Relax, I told him. Give it a few more days. The moment I release my response with evidence, the public narrative will flip overnight. And when it does, Walker Capital's stock won't just recover. It'll soar. Michael fell silent. All right, he finally said. I trust your judgment. After hanging up, I continued watching the story spread across the internet. It dominated every social media platform. Millions of people argued about it. Comment sections became battlefields. Some called me a murderer. Others called me a thief. Some even dug through my personal history, exposing old interviews, court appearances, and articles from my years as an attorney. The comments quickly turned ugly. No wonder she won the inheritance case. She's a lawyer. Ordinary people never stand a chance against rich attorneys. Lawyers only care about whoever pays them the most. They're all greedy. No conscience. No morals. I frowned. The insults directed at me didn't bother me, but attacking the legal profession did. I'd retired from practicing law. That didn't mean I'd stand by while ignorant strangers smeared the integrity of an entire profession. Quietly, I took screenshots of every account spreading defamatory attacks against attorneys and forwarded them to Daniel. A few minutes later he replied, "Leave it to me. Those keyboard warriors are about to learn exactly why picking a fight with lawyers is a terrible life decision. Get some rest. We'll handle the rest." I couldn't help laughing. People loved calling lawyers cold, ruthless, and heartless. The funny part? They usually said that only after losing. Then finally, the person I'd been waiting for made a move. Early the next morning my phone rang. The caller ID displayed, Seattle Police Department Major Crimes Division. I answered, "Miss Carter, this is Detective Harris. We've received a formal criminal complaint alleging that you intentionally murdered your husband in order to inherit his estate. We need you to come down to the station as soon as possible to assist with our investigation." I agreed without hesitation. Calmly I stood up, gathered the files and evidence I'd spent months preparing, and walked out the door. At last, the day I'd been waiting for had finally arrived. The moment I entered the Major Crimes Division at the Seattle Police Department, I didn't waste time with introductions. I placed a neatly organized stack of documents on the detective's conference table. "By the way," I said, "there are several recorded phone conversations included in those files. I think you'll find them very interesting." The detective spent nearly 2 hours reviewing every document, listening to every recording, and examining every piece of evidence. By the time they finished, the truth was painfully clear. The lead detective looked up and sighed. "Miss Carter, we sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. This case generated enormous public attention online. You know how social media works. Public pressure can become overwhelming, and when accusations of murder begin trending nationwide, we have a legal obligation to investigate. We were simply following standard investigative procedure." I nodded. I understand. I wasn't angry. In fact, everything had unfolded exactly as I'd hoped. "There is one thing I'd still like to ask," I said. "My situation has been cleared up, but there's one question that still hasn't been answered. How exactly did Sophia Carter escape from her kidnappers? The police searched for weeks without finding a single trace of her, and then she simply reappeared on her own. Doesn't that strike you as unusual?" The detective exchanged glances with his colleagues before nodding. "It does. And based on the evidence you've provided today, we'll be reopening that part of the investigation. We'll follow every lead. If someone orchestrated this entire incident, we intend to find out who. This case has attracted far too much public attention for us to leave any questions unanswered. We owe the truth to everyone involved." That was all I needed to hear. My objective had been accomplished. I thanked the detectives, stood, and quietly left the station. By that afternoon, the Seattle Police Department released an official public statement summarizing the results of its preliminary investigation. Unfortunately, facts rarely spread as quickly as conspiracy theories. The comments beneath the announcement were filled with skepticism. Funny how the police usually take months to investigate anything, but suddenly they're lightning fast when a millionaire is involved. Money talks. That's all this proves. The rich always get special treatment. Ordinary people never get justice. I don't believe a word of it. This whole system is rigged. I calmly picked up my phone and opened Sophia's live stream. Just as I expected, she was still online, milking every ounce of sympathy she could from the internet. The massive surge in views over the past few days had given her a taste of online fame, and she clearly wasn't ready to let it go. The comments section was flooded with donations, virtual gifts, premium subscriptions. Some viewers were even sending expensive digital rockets, worth hundreds of dollars. Just as Sophia reached for the court judgment to wave it dramatically in front of the camera once again, a loud, aggressive knock echoed through the house. "Oh, everyone, give me just a second," she said with a cheerful smile. "That must be my food delivery." She stood up and walked toward the front door. In her excitement, she forgot to end the live stream. Millions of viewers remained connected, watching, listening. The front door swung open. Click. The unmistakable sound of handcuffs locking shut echoed through the microphone. Then a calm but authoritative voice filled the live stream. "Miss Sophia Carter, you are under arrest. You are being investigated in connection with conspiracy to commit kidnapping, attempted murder, filing false reports, and criminal defamation. You have the right to remain silent. Please come with us." The detective wasn't shouting, yet every single viewer heard every word perfectly. Within seconds, the live stream chat exploded. Clips of the arrest were screen recorded and uploaded across TikTok, X, Instagram, Reddit, and YouTube before the stream had even ended. I watched the media storm reach exactly the point I'd been waiting for. Perfect. Without another thought, I clicked publish. The statement I'd spent days preparing finally went live. Then I spent another small fortune promoting my post to every major trending page. If the truth was going to come out, it deserved an audience just as large as the lie. Every document went online. The probate records, the court filings, the forensic reports, the recorded phone calls, the DNA analysis, even Ethan Walker's certified medical diagnosis confirming his permanent infertility. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was edited. Within an hour, public opinion flipped. The same people who had praised Sophia now flooded her social media accounts with outrage. Thousands of comments condemned her deception. Many of the people who had insulted me only days earlier sent private messages apologizing for believing the lies. But by then, none of it mattered anymore. Their apologies couldn't change what had already happened. Less than an hour after my statement was published, my phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. Unknown number. I smiled before answering. "What is it?" "So, you've finally decided to come out of hiding, Mr. Carter?" "That's right. The mastermind behind everything, the man who had been feeding Sophia ideas and pulling the strings from the shadows all along, was her beloved father. The same man who also happened to be my biological father." Mr. Carter didn't sound ashamed in the slightest. The moment I answered, he barked an order. "Olivia, take that statement off the internet. Delete it right now." I almost laughed. Why would I? When Sophia spent days lying about me. When she accused me of murder. When she destroyed my reputation. Where were you then? Did you ever once tell her to stop? He scoffed. "She was only asking you for a little money to raise the baby. What's the big deal? You've got $42 million. Giving our family 100 million yuan dash." He caught himself. $14 million. That should be nothing to you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He had the nerve to demand nearly a third of my inheritance. I wasn't interested in arguing. I ended the call. Then I uploaded another post. This one included the recording of our entire conversation, including his shameless attempt to extort me. The internet did the rest. Within hours, online investigators had uncovered nearly everything about Mr. Carter. His address, his workplace, his business records, even his phone number. His cell phone was flooded with thousands of calls. By the next morning, he was too busy dealing with the consequences of his own actions to think about demanding money from me again. Ryan didn't escape public scrutiny either. The internet made sure every one of them received exactly the attention they'd been chasing. Meanwhile, the Seattle Police Department completed its investigation. The official findings stunned the country. The so-called kidnapping had never been random. Sophia Carter and Ethan Walker had secretly planned the entire operation. Their original target had been me. They intended to have me abducted. But the criminals they'd hired made a catastrophic mistake. They kidnapped the wrong woman. They had never met Sophia before. They didn't realize they had taken Ethan's mistress instead of his wife. When Ethan learned what had happened, he rushed to the meeting point carrying the ransom money, desperate to save Sophia. The exchange quickly turned violent. A fight broke out. During the struggle, Ethan was stabbed twice. The kidnappers then shoved him into the ocean before fleeing. One of the kidnappers was seriously wounded during the confrontation. He managed to stagger back to the hideout, where Sophia was still being held. Instead of helping him, she killed him. She eliminated the only witness who could expose the truth. After disposing of the body as best she could, Sophia disappeared into hiding while recovering from her own injuries. She remained out of sight for weeks. Only after she believed the danger had passed did she quietly return home. That's when she discovered the one thing she had never expected. Ethan Walker, the man she thought she was risking everything for, had already been declared dead. I'll keep the same Americanized names, setting and courtroom/police terminology, while making the ending read like a best-selling American revenge drama. By now, everyone already knows what happened next. Sophia Carter was convicted on multiple felony charges, including conspiracy to commit kidnapping, homicide, obstruction of justice, and criminal defamation. The combined sentences ensured one thing: she would spend the rest of her life behind bars. She would never see freedom again. The baby she had with Ryan Walker was taken into protective custody by the state and later placed with a licensed foster family. Looking at the fate that awaited all of them, I couldn't help smiling. Neither Ethan nor Sophia had ever imagined that I'd uncovered their entire murder plot long before they put it into motion. Because there was one thing they never knew. Every property I owned had been equipped with discreet security cameras years earlier. The recordings captured everything. The meetings. The planning. The conversations. Once I learned exactly when and where they intended to have me kidnapped, I quietly arranged for events to unfold just a little differently. Instead of me, Sophia walked straight into the trap they had prepared. The kidnappers took the wrong woman. Exactly as I'd anticipated. The ransom call came to my home shortly afterward. They demanded $42 million in exchange for her life. I agreed immediately. Then they insisted the money be delivered to an isolated stretch of coastline. I calmly explained that I couldn't possibly transport that much cash by myself. But my husband has a car. That was all they needed to hear. They immediately demanded that Ethan deliver the ransom alone. Exactly according to my plan. I called Ethan, pretending to be hysterical. The moment he answered, I could hear the panic in his voice. Because according to his plan, at that exact moment, I should already have been dead. Instead, I tearfully told him that Sophia had been kidnapped, and that the kidnappers wanted him to bring the ransom. He asked only one question. How much? I deliberately gave him the wrong amount. $14 million. That single lie changed everything. When Ethan arrived, the kidnappers realized the money didn't match the amount they had demanded. The argument escalated. Violence followed. And the rest was history. Ethan never knew that I had already uncovered every detail of his betrayal. He rushed to save the woman he loved, and walked straight into the grave he had prepared for me. Even after his death, I wasn't finished with him. I wanted the truth to follow him forever. I wanted the entire country to know exactly who Ethan Walker really was. A man who betrayed his wife. A man who plotted her murder. A man who lost everything because the mistress he trusted was secretly sleeping with his own brother. A man who desperately dreamed of becoming a father, without ever knowing he had been medically infertile all along. The irony couldn't have been more complete. Sometimes, justice doesn't arrive in a courtroom. Sometimes, it arrives disguised as fate. As for me, I inherited $42 million. I walked away with my freedom, my reputation, my future, and a second chance at life. For the first time in years, every morning belonged to me. No lies, no betrayal, no fear, just peace. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next unforgettable drama. Until next time, take care.